I look at a lot of flipped houses, and in fact, I know one real estate agent who works with an investor, and they do a really nice job. What are the hallmarks of a flipped house? Well, a flipped house is a house that's in need of repair. Maybe it's 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, even older, and it hasn't had upgrades in the kitchen and the bathrooms. The carpets are old. There's various things, about the house that's not going to make it sell good. So what flippers do is, it's the HGTV. You've seen it there. They go and buy something that's old and needs some TLC. They fix it up. They make it all look brand new. And, then someone comes along and buy it, and they make their money from doing that. And, many times there are really good properties where the flipper has done a good job. They've, done everything to code. So you walk in and it feels like a brand new home. I walk into the homes like that all the time, and I actually enjoy that. You look at new, counters on the kitchen and new cabinets, and the flooring is all new, vinyl plank flooring, new carpeting, the walls have been freshly painted. And if everything's been done to code, and it's been a very professional job, and you've had a professional contractor doing all the work, that's a great deal, and you can find yourself in an older home that's been fully renovated, and is a really good thing. However, that's the pros. If you find something good, that's great, and there are those out there that are like that. However, there are a lot of flipped homes that look good, but they're not so good, and they're full of problems. And why is that? Well, it's a simple reason is that people who are flipping houses, they're trying to make as much money as they can. And what many people who do that are known to do is they cut corners. They cut corners in order to make more profit. And in cutting corners is where the problems begin for you as a potential buyer. So we're going to go into what are some of those things to look for. To know if this a flipped house is a good deal or it's not a good deal. Okay, well, first thing is, the first thing you can tell if a house has been flipped is you're going to look at the history of the house. How recently, was its last sale, or was it bought in the last, 12 months, 6 months, even a couple months ago, and now it's back on the market again. And often if that's the case, especially if you're working with a real estate agent, you can go and look at an old listing. Maybe the house was for sale, say 6 months ago. Someone has bought it. And you can go and look at that house when it was for sale, and you can look at the photos even on the MLS and see, oh boy, look at the state of this house when it was bought 6 months ago. It was really in bad shape, and now it's it's in good shape. That's an obvious way you can tell when a house has been flipped. So that's the first thing. Then how can you tell if someone's cutting corners, and what does that mean if someone's cutting corners? Well, I myself had some work experience. I worked in construction. I actually worked for investors who used to buy properties and then basically redo them, whether there was a house on the property or sometimes just a vacant piece of land, and build a property and then make their money doing that. I worked for really good investors who did a really nice job, and they didn't cut corners. So in other words, they did everything to code. They got licensed professionals doing every stage of the way, whether it was the flooring, the tile work, the electrical, the plumbing, the drywall, the framing, everything, the roofing, every aspect of that home was done to code. So when you cut corners, what you do is basically you don't necessarily do everything to code. And then that becomes a problem. And why wouldn't you do things to code? Well, because it costs more money. And a classic example is, let's say you have someone working on your crew who's not a licensed contractor. A general contractor is going to charge you more money for their services because they are licensed, and they're going to do everything to code, everything to very specific specifications. It takes more time, it costs more money. So one way, if a flipper wants to save money, maybe there's someone in their work crew who can actually do the flooring, do the tiling, knows how to do some electrical and some plumbing, but they're not actually licensed. But they'll do it for half the price, or less than an actual licensed plumber, for example. But they'll cut a few corners. They won't do everything to code. So maybe they use, for example, they don't use the right size pipes, in the plumbing. Maybe the specifications call for a 2-inch pipe through certain sections of the plumbing, and they don't use 2-inch pipe. They use a smaller, maybe they use a 1-inch, in a certain area because it costs cheaper. It's cheaper to buy 2-inch pipe is going to cost more than 1-inch pipe. That's just a simple example of how you could cut corners. And again, there's all kind of ways that that can happen, whether it's the plumbing and the electrical. Maybe the way they would do the electrical isn't exactly to code. Maybe at the back of the electrical box there's multiple wires going into one circuit breaker, which is a big no-no. That's another way you could cut corners. Maybe some of the actual exterior of the home, maybe there's some wood rot in a wooden framed house around some of the windows, and instead of cutting out all that old wood and reframing that whole area, reframing the window, putting a new window in, some tricks that that people do is just leave all that old rotten wood in there and wrap aluminium, or put vinyl inserts, or put some fascia, big fascia board around that area just to cover up the problem there. There's all kind of ways you can hide problems. So just to cut corners, to save money. And so that's a problem, a potential problem of a flipped house that you need to be aware of. So, buying a home is an emotional experience. So that's what you need to be aware of when you are buying a flipped house. Because the first impression is you walk in, everything's brand new, look at the nice counters, the kitchen counters look great, there's new cabinets, the flooring's all new, it's all freshly painted. And so you have an emotional experience straight away of, wow, this is a really awesome looking house, I want to buy this house. And then there's an idea that you put your emotions first, and then you put your logic second, or you even become illogical in the sense of there might be some glaring problems that you totally ignore. So that's when you buy a flipped home, you walk in, everything's brand new. Maybe you've got new appliances, and the kitchen's often really looking awesome. You've got maybe you've got granite style countertops, and they're sparkling new, and the cabinets are all brand new, the flooring's you've got vinyl plank flooring and new carpeting everywhere, the walls have all been freshly painted, and it just feels like you're walking into a new home. And right there, you might start overlooking, in that emotional excitement, there might be some glaring issues that are obvious there. If you take a little bit more time to look closer at the flipped house, that you'll ignore, and you even become illogical in the sense of you just bypass, the details that might be right in front of you that give you warning signs that this flipped house wasn't done, to code, or it wasn't done properly, or it wasn't done in a way that you really want to buy it. So let's get into that. But that's just a heads up warning of what the experience is walking into a flipped house. I've gone into plenty of flipped houses, renovated, fully upgraded. They look great, but they're not all great. So what are the things to look out for? Well, like I said, people cut corners in all kind of ways to save themselves money. And one way they do that is they may not even have a home inspection done when they initially buy the home, because they're thinking, we're going to come in here, we're going to gut the floors, we're going to redo the flooring, we're going to tear down this wall over here, redo the cabinet tops, we're going to put everything new, so there's no need for us to do an inspection because we're going to be kind of ripping it up anyway. Well, that's not a good thing, because for all you know, there might be a major problem, like there might be a sewer problem that's not even looked at because no inspection was done, and the flipper might just go in and do all the upgrades in terms of kitchen cabinets and countertops, and do a fresh coat of paint and redo the flooring, and do nothing with the plumbing. And maybe there's a major plumbing issue, like no one's been living in that house for 6 months, and if you flush the toilet a couple times, the toilet backs up, and suddenly you've got sewage coming into the house. That's actually happened. So that's an example of it's a tale of caution. So, you know, some flippers, they come in, and the thing about flipping a house is the people who are doing it are trying to do it in the shortest amount of time as possible. So they're trying to buy a house, get all the work done, you know, in a couple of months if possible, and then get the house right back on the market and sell it. Because they're in such, you know, time constraint is a big thing for many flippers. They're not taking their time. They're not taking months and months and months to make sure everything's right, to make sure every system, you know, is working and in great order. Some of them do that, but some of them don't. Some of them just want to get in and get out and sell the home. Not do a home inspection. They won't even do things all to code. You know, they might have a working crew, someone who's a handyman who can rewire the electrical, the plumbing, and do all kinds of things, but they're not actually licensed, and they cut corners. Like I said earlier, maybe they use smaller plumbing pipes because they're cheaper than they need to, or, you know, maybe they wire the electrical panel and don't put enough circuit breakers in because they know how to do that, and it'll save you some money. Maybe there's some rot in the wood on the exterior, and they know how to cover that up with fascia board or with wrap windows with aluminium, or all kind of ways that, you know, they're just like making it look good so they can get in and out of the house and sell it as soon as possible. So, you know, there's some examples, and, you know, there's other things that you want to look out for when you're in a flipped house and it looks all good. Step back from your emotional experience, and then detail. So here are some details. First of all, look at things like the baseboards. The baseboards are the things, you know, that run around from the difference between the flooring and then the walls. You have baseboards around, you know, the base of the wall. Are there gaps in the baseboards? Check that out, and check out tiling. Is the tile work all looking really good, or are there some, you know, is it misaligned some places, or there are gaps, you know, in the countertops? And then go and check every single cupboard door, like all the cabinets. You know, maybe some of those cabinet doors, you know, don't open so well, or maybe, here's a common thing, sometimes in a flipped home, because everyone's in a rush with what they're doing, is you open the door to the toilet, and the door doesn't open all the way. It actually bangs into the toilet seat. So the door doesn't even open up all the way smoothly. So check all those things out. Open every door. See if every door opens freely. Sometimes they'll put in appliances and they've forgotten to put a electrical outlet near that appliance because it's all been done in such a rush. Are there outlets, electrical outlets, near where every one of your major appliances wants to be? Are the baseboards, you know, all looking good and straight? Do all the doors open and don't hit or bang into anything? If you open up the fridge door, does it not open all the way because it's bumping into one of the kitchen cabinets? And are all the cabinets working properly? You know, open every door, every drawer. Do all the doors slide open smoothly? Another thing that you'll find, go and look in the bathrooms and see what size are the vanities. Sometimes vanities are put in there. So what a vanity is, it's like where your sink is. It's all surrounding, it's the cabinet and the drawers, and what the sink fits into. That whole structure is called the vanity. So is the vanity really small? Is it so small that it's not even useful because maybe, you know, there were some really small all-in-one vanities that were on sale, and the flipper got a whole bunch of them for, you know, a real cheap price, and it's really not even very functional. So check out things like that. Another thing to look at when you go look in the shower, are the hot and the cold handles, are they level? You know, sometimes it'll be something like that. I've seen that, where you go into the shower and the handles of the hot and the cold aren't level. Now, you might not think of anything you might not think that's a big deal, but if you start living in that house, all those little things are going to start to literally drive you crazy. You know, over time, that the fact that this cabinet door doesn't open properly and this drawer doesn't come out, it's going to start absolutely driving you crazy. So, you know, that's the caution, that's the con of buying a flipped house. You really need to go in and pay attention to all the details. You have to have a thorough inspection. Get a really good inspection and go over that inspection report, and be prepared. If you make an offer on a flipped house and you want to get it and you have an inspection report, be honestly prepared to back out of the deal if you see a lot of red flags in the inspection report. Don't get so emotionally invested in this new house that you feel like, oh no, don't ignore any warning signs in an inspection or in the details, or you just buy it anyway because it looks all brand new. Okay, so there's some of the main issues, and another one would be example insulation. So insulation is really important here in Las Vegas for keeping the home cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And that's something that is not a good necessary investment for a flipper. If the insulation is old and worn down and it's not really very effective anymore, it's highly unlikely a flipper is going to invest in new insulation. And another thing, if they're selling the home in the winter, you're not ever really going to test the air conditioning, and that's a possible red flag, is that the air conditioning may not even work that well. So they're just some other examples of the way that flippers will cut corners so they can make more profit, and so they can get the house in and out of the house and sell it as quickly as possible. Now, not everyone who flips houses does that, but a lot do. So that's going over the pros and cons of buying a flipped house. And like I said in the beginning, hey, I've seen a lot of houses that have been fully renovated and upgraded by flippers who've done an excellent job. They've used professional contractors for every aspect of the home, and I would absolutely buy one of those myself. They're really awesome, like walking into a new home. But not all flipped houses are like that. There are many which are not, and there are many flipped houses that have problems like the insulation is poor, the AC doesn't work, maybe there's some poor plumbing in there, maybe there's a sewer problem that was never checked, maybe all the doors maybe some of the doors bump into like the toilet seat, or the cabinet drawers don't all work properly, maybe things are misaligned, maybe there's gaps in the baseboard, and all kinds of things like that. And all those little details are going to drive you crazy. Maybe there's a lot of rot in the wood that was just covered up and you don't know about. Maybe there's a problem with the roof. There's old shingles there. There's all kinds of potential problems with way houses are flipped. So just beware. And a good idea is to work with a real estate agent, who's had some experience, so they can help guide you through the experience, and definitely get a home inspection. That's absolutely number one. Get a good home inspection, and when you go into a flipped house, take the time to look at in detail. Like I said, go around the home, open all the doors, open all the drawers. If you're thinking of buying that home, take some time and really step back emotionally and say, this could be a good deal, or it might be a bad deal. So take your time to do that. Okay, so anyway, I hope that's been helpful. If you're thinking of buying a flipped home, in no way am I discouraging you from that. I'm just saying beware, be cautious. You may have a great deal that's like a brand new home, and you may not. So, if you do want to get in touch, with someone who can help you, hey, check my links out below. If you're in the Las Vegas area, I'd be happy to help you. Or if you need a lender, or if you need, some to know some good contractors or home inspectors or anything else like that, check out my links below. Get in touch with me. I'd love to help you out in any way that I can. I don't make any money from these videos. It's really just for your educational benefit. And that being said, hey, if you've got any benefit from this video, do me a favor, hit that like button. That really helps the algorithm get this video out to more people, educate more people, which is one of my goals. Hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos.